Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. I am Mack Monty here on the NRG Series. Awesome matches of Magic we've played so far. Getting ready to kick off round number 5. I wanted to show you the standings here. So we don't have a way to bring it up on the screen, but I am going to go ahead and read you once I pull up my old cheat sheet here. So in pod number 1, Max Kamenowski, Connor Mullally, and Cole Dubin all at 3-1, leading the pack there. Adam Wasburn-Moses, Zach Allen, Ivan Espinosa, all checking in at 2-2. Zoe Reederman at 1-3, and Derek Davis is down at 0-4, but again, still technically alive. Just needs to win some matches here. Remember, we're going to remove the bottom 2 players of these pods. It's going to make more sense again in the next 3 rounds or so. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to pod number 2 to give you an update on that as well. I'm just reading through here. Will Kruger and Raja Suleiman both at 3-1. Jesse Robkin is, I believe we have, maybe I don't have it right, but I think she's 2-2. Andrew Elenbogen, Piper Powell, and Mack Endress are 2-2 as well. I believe Theo Jung is 1-3, and then Joseph Bernal having a tough day at 1-4 down there as well. Again, not technically eliminated from the tournament just yet, but definitely need to start picking up wins starting this round. We're going to kick off round number 5 here. I'm going to send you back down to Joe and Mason, and sounds like we got a pretty good feature match.
All right, here we go for round number 5. Quick edit. Matt was unsure. Jesse Robkin is also 3-1, so she is tied for the Pod B lead alongside Will Kruger and Roger Suleiman. All right, Mack Endress and Andrew Elenbogen, Enigmatic Fires and Mono White Humans. Mason Clark with me, and both players going to 6, so we'll take a breather.
Yeah.
And
we're talking about Mono White Humans. Same seed as Jesse last round. Testing partner as Jesse for this event. It's so kind of a weird tournament. You need to sort of have someone in the event, but you can't have too many people. So those 2 plus a couple of their friends helped test for this tournament, and they came up with the exact same 75. So the Mono White Humans that you saw last round, you're going to be seeing it again here. This time, though, piloted by Pro Tour champion Andrew Elenbogen, Joe. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter, Joe. Andrew said, these are the same plans I won the PT with. I cracked them back out for this event. I can't wait to win another event.
That's pretty cool. A person with consistent basic land choice I can respect. All right, Mack Endress, 2-2 here. We got through Modern with Jeskai Breach, and looking here with Enigmatic Fires. So a Yorion deck, a lot of, some creatures, a ton, basically an enchantment-based control deck. Thalia is going to put a huge kink in the plans. Other than that, Andrew's not going to be doing a whole lot to slow him down.
Yeah, this matchup's the kind of Enigmatic Fires is such a deck where you can express yourself in a lot of different ways and how you want to build it. I do think Mack here is one of our 4-color control experts and someone who plays controlling decks a bunch. So, by the way, both players seem to be on 5. But yeah, I think Mack is going to have a pretty easy matchup outside of the card Thalia's Lieutenant and the fact that his deck's a little clunky sometimes. It's a Yorion deck, but not like in Modern where we have all those fetches, all that card advantage. You have a lot of really strong cards, but sometimes they just don't line up correctly, and you see it makes it really hard to mulligan as Mack here is deep in the tank, figuring out exactly what.
If you're right about the me on 5 here, just looking for, functional mana here. Players know the matchup, so this is something where if you have a polarizing deck where some cards just stink in certain matchups, that's going to be okay here because you know which cards you don't want. Destiny Spinner, for example, looks like it might be one of the selections there to go down. Yeah. Okay, you're right. Both players on 5.
Yeah, and it looks like Andrew did win the dice roll and plays a recruiter the officer and passes the turn. Now, Joe, I know you know that tryout.
Oh, absolutely. It's such an easy one. I'm not even going to bother naming it because everyone already knows what it is.
Spara's headquarters, of course.
Of course. Yeah, yes. All right. And there is Thalia for Andrew. I know that one. It's as far as headquarters.
Yeah. I said this, though. I'm now having a moment of maybe it's the red one, but I'm pretty sure it's Spara's. I'm going to bet my job that it's Spara's headquarters. And if not, it's good working with y'all.
Yeah. All right. Well, Andrew Elenbogen doesn't care if he's in the multi-5. He's going to have a great curve developing here. And Mack Endress is, well, what are you going to do here? If you have a land, you can play Skyclave Apparition would be good. That would be, there is a land. All right, so this is going to stabilize, keep him from getting completely run over.
Yeah, here. And I think we're maybe there's a dice on there. I can't quite see it, but the recruitment officer got pointed with the Lunarch Aspirant, so that creature is a 3/2, and Aspirant's going to answer it right away here.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe we can, if coverage can hear this, maybe we can get a dice that's a little easier to see because that does really blend into the card almost to an incredible degree.
It's actually, I wonder if Elenbogen has those dice on purpose, just so no one can see his recruitment officers. He came with everything prepared. No, but jokes aside, that is funny how that just matched up perfectly there. And Andrew, I think, is having one of those moments we saw with Jesse kind of in the last round, right? Where the mono white deck, you sort of play your first couple turns like, okay, I'm going to play my most powerful 1 and 2 drops. Then I'm going to figure out exactly how I want to sequence the next few turns and think about, okay, what's going to happen from here. Thank goodness Andrew got some big old dice on there and gets the slam here for 7, Joe. I kind of like being Andrew.
Yeah, this is Mack Endress-Enigmatic just kind of getting, bowled over here. Going to need, well, let's see. Thalia's still in play, so there's going to be 2. Okay. Okay. Well, don't see that too often. Is that going to be enough to stabilize with Mack Endress at 6 life? Well,
yeah, looks like Andrew has a Skyclip apparition, so it's not going to be quite enough. But if without the Skyclip apparition, I think Mack might have stabilized. Yeah, we see Mack get run over here. And Joe, this is the thing about the mono white deck. It's so consistent, and just in Magic in general, right? And you can attest to this. Creatures have no fail rate. Max deck maybe lines up better theoretically. Maybe it's over the top. But guess what? 2 1s for 1, 3 2s for 2. They get the job done.
They absolutely do. And, both decks being on 5, it's probably preferable to be on the side where your creatures your cards all function individually on their own instead of being something that's based on synergy. So let's go. We're talking about synergy. Let's go ahead and look at the decklist here. We'll show you what Mack Endress is working with this Enigmatic Fires Yorion deck, which is looking to do a lot of explosive things in the late game and just survive early on.
Yeah, it looks like Mack here, there's like a lot of different ways you can do it. It looks like Mack is doing the Chain the Rock version, has the one Odinist, it has the main deck Rest in Peace, something that I know that Mack also did at the RC in Atlanta a couple months ago now. And it looks like he just has a more very creature-heavy build of this deck, which I kind of like. With this sort of build, we saw in the last game how he was kind of on the draw and the Archon wasn't enough to stabilize. But if he was on the play, it was a very different game despite being a mulligan to 5 and might have been able to have enough there to stabilize, where other builds of this deck have just a bunch of Omen of the Seas or cards like that that don't impact
some nice ones in the sideboard here for Mack Endress. Rending Volley, 3 of them. Deafening Clarion. I mean, those are probably the cards you want, but oftentimes these Yorion decks, it's hard to really significantly change the deck because of the 80 card difference. It's just your sideboard is diluted. But that's 5, probable winners there. And there's certainly some chaff to trim off here. Like I don't think Rest in Peace is doing too much in this matchup.
Yeah, probably can put that one to bed. I don't need that one. But yeah, like you mentioned, the Yorion deck, especially here in Pioneer, you're not going to see as many cards. So when you're sideboarding, you kind of have to have a density of the cards you want and hope that drawing one of them is enough. And Rending Volley is about that against the Spirit stack, and against mono white, it's fine. But Deafening Clarion, if we draw one of those, that's going to definitely change things up pretty drastically here. So, I think Mack is theoretically favored here in this matchup. And Elenbogen got a little lucky to win game 1, but if you're going to win Magic tournaments, you got to get a little lucky.
We'll look at Elenbogen's Pioneer deck, and as you said, it is something that we saw last round in the hands of Jesse Robkin as well, the 1 extraction specialist, the 2 pair of Skyclave Apparition and Brutal Cathar.
Yeah, I'm going to guess, Joe, and this is some high-level analysis, that our Destroy Evils that kill all of Mack's best creatures and all the enchantments in this deck are going to come in, and that's why they pay me bucks.
No, that is a solid analysis. Now let me lob you up another one here. All right, so we talked about Mack Endress potentially boarding out Rest in Peace. Does that mean because he doesn't want it in the matchup? So if Mack doesn't want it, does that mean that Andrew does want it and he should bring in his Rest in Peace?
Wow, Joe, great analysis. I love where your head's on that one.
That wasn't analysis. That was a question.
No, but you broke down the core of the matchup, right? If my opponent doesn't want the card in the matchup, maybe I do. It's kind of the moment where in game 2, your opponent takes the draw. In game 3, you take the draw situation. However, Joe, I do think this is a situation where Andrew Elenbogen on the draw, he can't do it. Maybe if we're on the play, we can readjust this, and figure out if we want Rest in Peace on the play.
You're right.
A little bit more impactful.
You're right.
There,
You're right.
You really got to think about that play draw dynamic.
We talked about Thalia being important, and you don't want to have your Rest in Peace wait until turn 3. That's just no good. You may as well not even go at that point. All right. So players perusing their deck lists, looking things over. They are available to each other for the entire event. This is open deck lists. Players had to submit their decks Thursday afternoon. So, but they didn't have access to them until today. We at Coverage have been able to gleefully pour over them for the last couple nights, but players are just finding out today what all is in the field. And something that I think I mentioned earlier in the pregame, that Jesse Robkin had tweeted how it was much easier to predict the field in Modern than in Pioneer because there were fewer Pioneer events played, and the players that are in this championship are more known for their Modern deck lists. So maybe some more surprises in store and Pioneer, and we see some decent variety, some decent hedging among a couple of players. Nicole Duman, for example, also playing mono white humans, like we've seen Andrew and Jesse, both deck list that is kind of leaning to beat Lotus Field as opposed more so the stock versions, and kind of everyone's got their deck shift a little bit towards what they expected the field might be, which makes it kind of interesting. Also makes the deck list not as, in some cases, you're going to look at these deck lists from this event and say, well, this player put a lot of work into this. But even if they did, it doesn't mean it's going to be good.
A lot of different work goes in, and a lot of different open deck lists. You just Nicole and Connor, they were talking on Twitter, and Connor said, hey, you're coming in my pod. So Nicole talked to her before the event. She said, I put a little bit of thought into it. If I'm going to play against Connor, he plays Lotus Field, the mono green and Pioneer. I might want to play mono white a bit more. And we see that being reward for her here as we're back into the game with Andrew Elenbogen, the recruitment officer. And Joe, I checked it out during the last thing. It's Spar's headquarters for sure. So Spar headquarters and Denalia's presence, a little draw here.
Yeah. All right. Both players on 7 this game. So Mac should develop a little better than last time. But there is Thalia once again, which is going to mean those Fable the Mirror Breakers, which Mac has in abundance, are not coming into play this turn.
Yep. And also, this is the thing that, like, we talked about this matchup being a little hard. You're going to have Thalia. Really good players, if you're at home and you're like, oh, I can never beat this matchup, take your mulligans and try and find Thalia. We saw Elenbogen go down to 5 in the first game. And that could just be simply because he didn't have a Thalia and wanted to make sure he had the cards that actually matter. You'd rather have one less card and have your best card than keep a hand that doesn't function here. And we see the classic now, Joe. Turn 3, mono white player goes to the tank and plans out the next 2 turns.
Yep. Thinking about here. So, Mack Endress is probably hoping next turn is just recruitment officer activation, but I think he's going to get that.
I think that's not going to be the case, but if it is, it would be impressive. As we see hopeful initiative into Thalia's Lieutenant board and slam for 6, max at 14 with a lot of damage coming on the next turn.
All right, maybe even 12 if we'll get those life totals activated here. And Mack Endress, it's going to need more than the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That Archon, okay, there's an enigmatic incarnation. That's not coming down this turn.
You see Elenbogen with his hands. He's very personable at the table, talks a lot. I guarantee you he's saying no deafening Clarion.
Yeah, right.
I've got my Thalia. I got, okay, can't be that now. I'm pretty happy.
Is this? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Mac just didn't have another land, it seems, or maybe was looking for something a little better there. Had a Triome.
Well, Mac looks very dead. Maybe Andrew can activate recruitment officer this turn and still win the game.
It might be the case. Yeah, so we have 10 damage on board and there's nothing that can happen. This is what we talked about, right? Fail rate of creep. Yeah, and Max just say combat, man. I'll concede. Yeah. See Andrew Elenbogen move to 3 and 2. Yeah, maybe this matchup is worse, but the fail rate of creatures is so high, and the power of Thalia is through the roof in this matchup. We just saw Mac drop 2 Fable the Mirror Breakers. He's like, hey man, I just didn't have any plays to make, so I just drew a card and tried to see if I had a card I didn't know was in my deck real quick.
Well, that was Mack Endress getting wrecked by Pro Tour champion Andrew Elenbogen, putting himself in position to hopefully move out of the group. All right, we have a backup match. I don't know who it is, but let's go ahead and get it going here. We are in round 5 of the NRG Championship, match 2 of Pioneer. And we're going to see Max Kamenowski and Adam Wasburn-Moses mono white again versus Rakdos midrange. White was the most common deck submitted in Pioneer. There are 4 copies out of the 16 players.
Max, I believe, is one of our only 2 Rakdos midrange players. The deck that you see dominate on the Magic Online circuit in the hands of Misplaced Ginger. And a matchup here where players are looking contentious about how powerful, one side of it is versus the other, and things like wedding announcement matter a bunch here in this matchup. But you do see Adam decide to keep, a hand that's a little light on lands, draws it off the top though, and just sort of be like, hey, game 1, I kind of just need to have cards. It doesn't really matter what the cards are.
Yeah, mulliganing against decks with discard can be painful sometimes. But stuck with 2 Brave the Elements here isn't great, especially when your creatures are getting picked off when they're not even available to cast.
Yeah, a little bit of a misstep there. We decided to stop the Dauntless Bodyguard. We could have sacrificed the Dauntless Bodyguard so that the Bonecrusher Giant wouldn't be on an adventure. But, instead here we are. And we're getting Adeline off there. So that land, we might just see Brave the Elements, Joe.
I mean, Adeline and Thalia's Lieutenant is so good together. I mean, this builds the board real good. I mean, we see Max went Thoughtseize, kill a creature, and now Adam's board is still significant here. And, I don't know. Rakdos Midrange does a lot of good things. Its turn 3 plays aren't stellar.
Yeah, if you're a Max fan, you're really wanting something like Stomp and a Fatal Push here, maybe, or something along those lines. Just you want a double spell. You don't actually just want to use one spell. So we do see a Fatal Push on the Thousand Lieutenant. So that's step one. Right. We do have a Shieldred in hand too. So we have some Blood Tithe Harvester. That's basically like a kill spell for the token.
Yeah,
we might be able to stabilize here on the next turn unless these Brave the Elements just run us completely over.
All right, so then I don't know what Adam's draw was, but do you send the Mutavault and potentially trade with the Blood Tithe Harvester?
I think I do because I want to attack with everything and Brave the Elements unless we do something really juicy off the top. I just want to make sure that a blood token doesn't accidentally kill the Thalia, right? And then suddenly you're in this terrible spot.
Yeah.
But Brutal Cathar does that job essentially too, and now we have to save the Brave the Elements.
All right. Yep. This does make removal on Brutal Cathar a little tough, but all right. Damage pouring through here. Adeline and 2 tokens now getting in.
Yeah.
And Max is like, I can't beat these. My Shieldred is not going to beat double Brave the Elements. So let's go ahead and try this again.
Yeah, a funny moment happened there too at the end. You saw where the card went flying, and normally, Adam can't look at the opponent's card, but with open deck list, Adam's just like, "What you showing me, bud?" And takes a look at it. Another moment of like, "Hey, everyone here is really serious. $20,000 on the line, a lot of prestige, a hard year of work for everyone, but also." Magic's so much fun. These players all know each other. They've all been grinding all year long. A lot of, serious games, but some funny in jokes along the way, with things like Andrew Elenbogen, like, don't Clary on me, just things like that. It's so much fun to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Tournament Magic is awesome. It's the way you and I enjoy spending time. I'm sure most of the viewers, that's why you're here. That's why you're watching. The players involved. It's cool that no matter what your thing is you're interested in the world, there's a group of people that want to do it with you, and this is our thing, and it's happy to have you here watching, and I'm sure the players who appreciate the support. Let's go into the sideboards and see how we're looking for game number 2.
God.
Okay, Rakdos Midrange for Max Komanowski here, playing against
the old Mono
White.
Some really innovative stuff going on here. So you're going to see in Max's sideboard 3 Misery Shadows, a card that a lot of players had just put in the main deck. Max, however, has 3 Reckoner Bankbusters in the main deck. Maybe expected a little bit more of a grinding metagame, maybe some more mirrors. Maybe thought other people are going to bring Rakdos midrange. That was a somewhat popular thought among some of the players preparing for the event after talking to them. So Max sort of pre-gamed. Unfortunately, you much rather have a 2/2 for 2 against the mono white deck than the Reckoner Bank Buster. But even with that happening, Max still has a lot of really strong cards in the sideboard. 3 Extinction Event, 2 Rending Volleys. Those cards are going to go the distance against mono white if you draw them and play them on curve. So Max here lost game 1, but game 2 and 3, that's the spot where this deck always really shines, really kind of increases his matchups, much like Murktide, which we've seen Max play a bunch as well. So expect post-board games for Max to be a lot
let's
better.
Go ahead and look at the other list, which there is some variation among some of the white. So, well, Nicole Dumas deck we talked about being different. This one is also slightly different from the Jesse Andro version, as there are 4 Brutal Cathars here as opposed to just 2.
Yeah, they decided to go with 4 Brutal Cathar, it seems, and 1 Skyclave Apparition. So instead of having Extraction Specialist, which is a matchup where you maybe want that, just has a lot more spot removal for the creatures, and, has a lot of the same cards just in the sideboard. So, one thing that's really cool about these small field tournaments is that you can maybe have a deck that's more targeted towards something because you just less random decks in the room. Have you ever gone to F&M Joe and then your opponent just has some random thing you never expected to see? That's probably not going to happen here. So you can do some things that maybe you can't normally do in the quote-unquote real world.
Okay, so we see here the options available. Wedding announcements obviously is a crusher in grindy games, which is what this. Well, that's not what we saw in game 1, but I think that's what Adam might expect in sideboard games.
Yeah, a wedding announcement's a great one, Joe, and I really like having some way to answer a Shieldred. Some players like Destroy Evil, some players like Declaration Stone. It looks like our players are ready for game 2, so let's hop back there.
Okay. Wasburn-Moses looking to advance to 3-2 would put these two players equivalent to each other. And keep in mind, if you're following along, so these players are in pods. So your record, you're only really competing against the players in your pod at this point. Your record versus having a better or worse record than someone on the other side doesn't actually impact your standing at this point.
All that matters is you're not bottom 2. That is the only thing that really matters here. And
top 2, bottom 2 is going to determine who doesn't have to play in stage 2.
Joe, Adam went turn 1 Mutable, turn 2 Lieutenant. If I'm maxed, I am 100% sure Adam has multiple of the card wedding announcement. There's no way Adam would keep a hand like this unless that was the sort of case. So a player like Max is going to pick up on that, and we're probably going to see some wedding bells here in a second, or maybe a bunch of Adelaines. There's got to be some power involved in this hand.
All right, here is the wedding announcement. So Misery Shadow for Max. So that obviously got boarded in. Now, is this being boarded in? Are there any graveyard triggers that Max cares about here, or is it just to have a creature that can be pump and be a sizable presence on the board?
I think it's just a sizable presence on the board. It's a situation where a lot of times with this deck, you actually hold up removal. And so you can actually hold back Misery Shadow if there's a couple creatures in the way. And then it's a spot where it's like, oh, I'm attacking a bunch, but I don't know if it's removal spells or shadow. And then also in spots like this, you just trade with a creature or you start beating down. The trick to Rakdos midrange, Joe, is that it's not actually a mid-range deck. It's like an aggressive, disruptive deck that sometimes sideboards into a mid-range deck. So you're seeing that happen from Max here. He's just sort of like play a creature, interact with you a little bit. And that's what we're going to see a lot of from this match here. As Adam plays Skyclave Apparition, a card, he probably brought in order to answer Shieldred, but happy to do it here. And I think that's a recruitment officer played from Adam. I believe that's the new F&M promo. So you can head down to your local game store or NRG at their store where they're holding this event and pick that up. And so guess what happened, chat? Joe heard about recruitment officer and he said, I've got to go. He sent me a text. He's running down to his LGS to pick up the new recruitment officer. So I'm going to be in charge of everything here, which means I'm always right and super handsome. It's just the best part of all the world here. And if you're a Max fan, Shieldred coming down here, Extinction Event coming down, big game. Gives Max back a creature and answers that Skyclave Apparition off the board so that Max can keep attacking. And that's a big part of this matchup. If you're at home, you're playing this, and maybe you have a little bit of trouble, and you hear online like, oh, I watch streams and everyone says Rakdos beats mono white. Try attacking a little bit more to probably go a long distance here, as we do see Adam pick up another copy of Mutavault, one of his more powerful lands in the matchup, and deploys a Hopeful Initiate. And, flips over the wedding announcement. And so now, it's a wedding celebration. So all the creatures get +1/+1. So those Mutavaults are really large now. And this is the power of wedding announcement in this matchup. It's one card that generates 3 bodies, but also pumps the board for the remainder of the game. So it's much harder for Max to actually start beating down. And this is where cards like Shieldred really shines. We do see Max has that pulled up to the front of his hand. It's a card that both stabilizes you in life, but also dwindles away at the opponent's life total here. Looks like Max is just playing it. Probably going to get a passing on the turn. One thing you'll see a lot from these high-level players is they'll sort of think through their whole turn and then execute. And so, Max is just double-checking. There's a lot of money on the line, and the board state's getting pretty tight here. But cast a Shieldred, it's going to get a trigger, knock Adam down to 18, Max up to 13, as Sheffield Dune off the top. A little bit of a flood situation from Adam, but drew recruitment officer. So that's going to help fix the flood. Adam will be able to find some stuff here. It looks like Adam's opting not to activate the recruitment officer, most likely because he wants a card like Brutal Cathar or Skyclave Apparition. If he activates in the main phase, Max might still have some number of discard spells in, and he could get got. So there's really no reason to do anything until Max acts. Just gives Adam more information and forces Max to be in a harder position to work with less information. So we are going to see Blood Tithe Harvester, better known as Harvey for the people in the streets, get picked up here. And it looks like he's just double checking the power toughness. Like, yeah, okay, it's only +1/+1. You can't shove it into instant speed. I'm good to go. Looks like Adam is going to look at his top 4 and put a card in his hand. It isn't drawing a card for what it's worth as well, which is sort of a weird situation. So shielded won't trigger. We do find a Thalios Lieutenant here. And Joe's back. Joe, you went. I told them you ran to your store to pick up the recruitment officer promo. Did you get your copy?
You want to know what's going on? I live in Southern California, right? We're in flood watch right now, and the power went out for a minute.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, well, hopefully you're staying safe there, because Adam Wasburn-Moses is not safe, as he has almost died here to these shielded triggers.
Okay, well, I mean, that's tough. I mean, shielded's great against when you're drawing multiple cards a turn. 1 card a turn is still good, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Shock gain 2 is pretty nice, and Max has a bunch of life, has a blood. If he ever, for some reason, needed to gain 2 more life, he could. And Adam needs to have an answer to this shielded now. It looks like he didn't get it. He's going to pick it on up here. This is a time-shifted match, but I know the round's been going kind of long, so we might be catching up to them in real time. We'll see how that goes. However, we should be able, through the power of timing Wymie, to jump right ahead to game number 3 here after a quick jump to the booth, check in on Joe. But yeah, while you were gone, Joe, basically we drew some recruitment officers and some lands. They got killed, and we just
what I want to know
passed away.
Did the recruitment officers activate?
Yes,
really?
We got 1 activation off, and it found that Thalios Lieutenant. Yeah, we had 6 lands in play. So
it's all in the same turn, so it's a good deal, huh? Drawing
yeah, it was a great
game
deal.
3, roll it. Yeah, drawing extra cards without shielded triggers. That's perfect. I'm sure that's
just good game design.
I'm sure it's exactly what Adam wants to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see Adam here having a recruitment officer on 1, and it looks like a double 1 drop onto another recruitment and hopeful initiate. Just trying to get underneath the Rakdos mid-range player.
All right. Blood Tithe Harvester can trade with either creature, but that's still something that Adam's probably. Whoa. Okay, here's Adeline as well. So, yeah, Max can trade off or swallow up the token.
Yeah, and looks like we're just going to have a trade at the Hopeful Initiate. Makes sense. Hopeful Initiate would. It looks like we decide not to block. Okay, we put it in front. We decide not to. Totally reasonable. You might have another Blood Tithe Harvester in hand, or you might draw 1 and you want to kill the Adeline. So might be what Max was sort of hasty and decided better of it.
Yeah. So Max, no play there in turn 2, and this is probably not a case where you hold up removal for the opponent's turn because of Brave the Elements. So maybe Adam can assume here that the coast is clear for whatever he's got.
Yeah, and Adam knows Max is a smart player, so he's going to give it the respect it deserves and be like, yeah, like you should know that I know these things. What's going on? Looks like it was a rending volley. Going to take down the Luminarch Aspirant. Might be a fatal push situation that plans to answer the Adeline, if that's what's happening. And they're slamming with all the creatures and getting the tokens here. Adam Wasburn-Moses is one of our more accomplished players on the tour. Not someone who plays with a lot of creature decks normally. So he's starting to get used to, my creatures, some have vigilance, some don't. Jokes aside here. Adam picked these decks a while ago. I talked to him. He locked in his dextro on December 26th and talked to PV a little bit, the GOAT, talked to playing mono white, decided that's a pretty good choice, and wanted to spend the rest of his time just making sure that he, would play the decks really well, both mono white and Amulet and Modern, and B, that his sideboard plans were really good. And odd is an odd duck if you're an Adam fan, because everything burned. Looks like Joe maybe got disconnected again due to the flood stuff. Hopefully he's safe. But what actually happened is, and Joe just made up the flood story, everyone. He just really liked recruitment officer. And when it died, he had to take a moment, go to the bathroom, get a water, clean his face off. He'll be back in a minute. We do have Castle Ardenvale activations on the line. So a lot of things that can go on here for Adam. But if you're a Max fan or a Black-Red fan, we're starting to turn that proverbial corner here as, resolving a card like Fable the Mirror Breaker with Blood Tithe Harvester in play means you get to kill a creature every single turn. Also, fun little story here, that Max token there, the Fable the Mirror Breaker, is Max, Connor, and Theo, who we saw last round. They won the showdown. That's how they qualified for this event. And winning our showdowns mean you actually get a cool little NRG token to be there. You can get events at the store. So that's where this token that's in play came from. Max is the one on the bottom right there. So it's really cool to win a big tournament and have something like that. One of the cooler things about the NRG circuit series, even. We got a mutable animation going on. Looks like Adam's getting a little frisky with it. Decides, you know what? I want to attack, and that Max is like, okay, I'll block. Adam's like, no doubt, no doubt. As the wedding announcement comes down and gets another creature, Adam maybe was trying to pinch Max there in mana and hoping to get rid of something, or maybe just like, hey, this mutable isn't going to do anything. My best bet is just to sort of trade off now. Max picked up another land for the turn. Not exactly what he's looking for, but did have the Rummage from Fable if he had wanted it. And looks like he did use a little bit as we use Graveyard Trespasser to start stabilizing and gaining life. Adam only has 2 creatures in the graveyard because the Extinction Event does exile despite being a Wrath effect. So Max up to 5, Adam down to 19. Looks like we have an Abrade in hand. There's some card in Adam's hand. I'm sorry, Max's hand that looks red. I can't quite figure out what it is. Max attacking, though. Pretty confident attack there. And Joe, welcome back here. Wedding announcement. Oh, we have double 1-drop. And no attacks from Adam because of the Graveyard Trespasser that was so dark because of the foil. I couldn't see it. That makes way more sense. I had a moment there, everybody. When you're doing all the jobs, sometimes you get a little lost in the proverbial sauce here. As a brain does.
I'll try and prevent you from having to undergo that anymore. As we're now having wind warnings as well. So this will be a fun day here in California. But
oh my goodness.
Okay, so we're looking at wedding announcements on the verge of flipping over and boosting the squad, and certainly Adam with a much wider board and Max down to 5.
I think so.
Looks a little precarious.
Yeah, so basically while you were gone, big thing that happened is Extinction Event cleared up the Adeline and the 2 creatures, and then Max is sort of stabilized from there. We've been wedding announcements since then.
All right.
As we do see Graveyard Trespasser start getting in and, get those attacks on Graveyard Trespasser, a card that's seen a lot of Pioneer play and just sort of hits all the right boxes to see play.
Yeah, such an incredible card. I mean, it almost seems like it can't be real. It does too much stuff, but I guess that's just, Magic these days. Lots of things. I mean, wedding announcements on their side of the board also does a lot of stuff.
Oh, Thalia. If it was Thalia's Lieutenant, would have been a scary draw there for Max. You see him even move his hands up to his chin there. It's like, oh, that would have been rough. But Thalia, not a bad card by any means. The first strike does a little bit here, but not the end of the world here for Max. But we do have, I count 11 power on board. So this Fable the Mirror Breaker activating with Bloodtithe Harvester is going to need to do some serious work.
Yeah, I mean, there's three creatures is lethal. Although I guess if Graveyard Trespasser gains some more life, Max can. So what are we doing here? Are we copying Graveyard Trespasser and attacking here to gain life?
It looks like because we made a blood, we copied Bloodtithe.
Okay,
Harvester. So yeah, it looks like a moment where Max is just doing this main phase because, like Joe said, he could attack with the Gluttonous thing if he wanted to, but also Bloodtithe Harvester only works at Bloodtithe only works at sorcery speed. So
yeah. All right, here is an all-out assault, forcing Max to have something beyond his 2 blockers on the board.
Yeah, definitely an interesting spot here where, Max can, in theory, live if he made his play like this. He left the Thalia around, so he's got to have some interaction spell. And now, he does lose his Bloodtithe Harvester, but he eats the Thalia in combat.
Oh, because it's on the backside. Sure, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so actually, starts to stabilize a little bit here, but has another Thalia from Adam. Like, okay, listen, maybe not the best card in the world, but at least I got something. So we do see Max here decide to pop the blood main phase 2 and just hit some lands, and it's like, okay, whatever. I'm tired of flooding. Let's see what we can hit.
All right. Well, it's kind of this is close. Okay, Castle Locked-Wing. Yeah. Not sure that's going to help too much right now.
Yeah, so the Graveyard Trespasser flipped is interesting because we can copy it and we can eat enough creatures that we actually present a lethal attack, but then we'll die on the crackback. But it also means that when we, make a copy with the Fable on the next turn, Max is essentially at 4 life to Adam's attack, which means he won't have enough creatures to get through. So really, Max needs to fade this turn. If he can fade this turn, he can start to stabilize his life total and actually get out of this game. Because Adam has 3 creatures in his graveyard, and Max has 1 Blood Tithe Harvester in his own.
Okay, so well, Max needed something there though, right? I mean, he's currently sitting dead. If
Well, the Graveyard Trespasser gains life on ETB as well.
Yeah, right, sure, okay.
Yeah. So sort of a weird situation. Looks like Adam is deciding just to slam in, which I believe Adam knows is a not lethal attack with open information. So maybe Adam is trying to do
does this
something.
Does this force the Trespasser to? No, it doesn't. Okay, yeah. So this
yeah. Because the Trespasser token is the one that gets in the way. So
yeah.
Adam does push 2 damage, and only loses a token for it, but a little bit of an awkward spot, I guess, no matter how you slice it here.
Yeah.
Does seem like, I guess Adam needs to draw the card Brave the Elements, and with Thalia's Lieutenant, Luminarch Aspirant's like a Thalia's Lieutenant.
Yeah. This is let's see. So how much is this gonna? Well, what Adam needs is 2 lethal attackers so that Graveyard Trespasser actual has to block. And I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, it looks like he's a little bit away.
He's 1 short, I think.
I agree.
Oh, okay. No, what? No, yeah. Attacking with the other Luminarch Aspirant, that will do it. That'll change the math.
How?
Unless Max has something else.
Max has the power word kill. Looks like
that counts.
Yeah, and that I'm gonna call it is a blowout for Adam. Max is gonna gain that 2 life again and eat both these creatures in combat. Max will be up to 4 and can present a near lethal attack on the next turn due to having another Graveyard Trespasser eat the other 2 creatures that just died. So Max here in a commanding position. If he draws anything like a fatal push, the game will end. And yeah, it looks like he drew a power word kill, and that's going to do it. Congratulations to Max here. Moving on to 4-1. Feeling pretty safe there from not falling out of his pod. It's not 100% lock in. He needs to get to at least 5-2. But feeling great about his chances in the tournament.
Well, that will conclude round number 5. This is Nerd Rage Gaming 2022 Championship. Thanks for being here. We'll be back for round 6 in a few minutes.